Hi friends. So I'm starting a new series talking about all the reasons why I think that Dr. Phil is not the lovable TV psychologist that we are all so familiar with. I have a lot of issues with Dr. Phil, ranging from the blatant exploitation of the guests that he invites onto his show, to the verified reports of him being inappropriate with a past patient, scamming his trusted viewers, as well as regularly inviting predators onto his platform to gain sympathy from his audience. I could talk about this for hours, so let's get started. So Phil McGraw, aka Dr. Phil, is a well-known TV host who has been on the air for the past 20 years. He has a PhD in clinical psychology, but he is not licensed to practice in any state in the US. So that we can better understand why this man is no longer licensed to practice, we're going to need to rewind all the way back to 1988. So when Dr. Phil was 38 years old, he was working as a therapist in a private practice that he shared with his father in Texas. During this time, Dr. Phil made a huge mistake by hiring one of his patients, who was a 19-year-old female, to work for him at his practice. This issue alone raised a red flag that caused the Texas State Board of Examiners of Psychologists to become involved, as this is a massive ethical violation. During their investigation, this 19-year-old patient shared with the board that she and Dr. Phil had engaged in a brief physical relationship as well as a codependent relationship. According to this patient, after beginning treatment with Dr. Phil, he became overly involved in her life and went as far as to call her multiple times a day, demand what her whereabouts were, and even wanted to know what time she went to bed at night. She also shared an instance where she had an amazing opportunity to work for one of her professors at her college at Houston University, but when sharing this opportunity with Dr. Phil during one of their sessions, he reportedly did everything in his power to persuade her to work for him instead. She reported how she felt trapped and felt like her therapist had become dependent on her. And I will note that Dr. Phil was married to his current wife, Robin, during this time. Concluding their investigation, the Texas State Board publicly reprimanded Dr. Phil for his actions, and they also required that every single one of Dr. Phil's therapy sessions would need to be supervised for a full year before he could resume his normal one-on-one sessions. The Texas State Board's full report is still available online today. The board was also requiring that Dr. Phil had to take ethics classes before he could resume his practice. He had no interest in doing any of these things, so he simply moved and opened a consulting firm. 2006 was the year that Dr. Phil officially surrendered his license, but he was cited for practicing psychology without a license or certification in 2008. When you watch the Dr. Phil show, you will often hear him say to his guests, "I can't diagnose you in the short time we have together." But in reality, he cannot diagnose anyone with anything, period. He's completely unlicensed. This is literally just the tip of the iceberg. In part 2, we'll talk more about some of the victims he has invited onto his show to exploit for financial gain, as well as his role in Britney Spears' conservatorship.